Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name's Frederick Weller, and today I'm going to talk about crafting magic items. Oh my gosh, somebody has asked for this, and it's a can of worms, but here it goes. I will probably have to do more than one video to explain how I go about crafting magic items in my game. I'm going to talk about a suitable skill to actually make that item. Are they proficient in the skill required to make weapons or armor? So we're talking about blacksmithing. If they're going to make something that is mounted on a building or structure that's made of stone, are they proficient in masonry? If they're going to make something out of leather, are they capable of actually working with the leather? There's lots of different skills related to the backgrounds in the player's handbook that talk about the kinds of proficiencies revolving around actually making stuff. Materials and money are a pretty big factor to making any kind of magic item. One, they are expensive to make, and they should be. Two, some items are going to be so difficult to make because the expense is so horrendous, they're never going to get made in your group anyway. I found primarily that common and uncommon magic items were the most feasible to actually make in any group. Now there is a point where they will have enough money to make common and uncommon magic items, so just bear that in mind. As soon as you open the floodgates you could wind up with quite a few, particularly at high level. Are special materials required to make magic item? If you're going to make it out of dragon scales, you're going to need dragon scales, so you're not going to be able to buy them down at a general store. You're probably going to have to find a dragon, you're going to have to kill it, or find some scales that have fallen off it on the ground. I often require the players to have proficiency in Arcana. Do they need to have a specific value in Arcana before you will allow them to actually craft a magic item, or is it good enough that they are simply proficient? I tend to just go with they are proficient. Other factors that might come into the mix is, do they require a plan to actually make this magic item? Will they have to do some sort of research? Will there be some sort of copying taking place? Can they take an existing magic item and duplicate it? I've done this in my own games. The only problem is you wind up with 3 or 4 +1 longswords floating around. Access to the spells required to imbue a particular magic item with its properties is something that I tend to require, and if you're going to make a +1 magical weapon of some kind, then you better be able to cast magic weapon. If you are going to make magical armor, then maybe it's going to change, because there really isn't a spell that's sort of tied into making +1, +2 armor, even if they had the time to do that. There are significant problems with allowing players to use scrolls to cast a spell to imbue the weapon or armor or whatever magic item it is with its magical properties. Because of the number of scrolls required, it gets kind of complicated. I generally tend to avoid it, but you could use that if you wanted to. This is the real cruncher, time. It takes a lot of time to make magic items, which is why most of the magic items that were crafted at my table were common or uncommon. Making anything beyond that was simply, well, it just took too long. You need to explain to your players that their character will need to sleep, eat, they will actually have to rest at some point. They can't just spend 30 days or an entire year non-stop making one single magic item. A place to work and tools. Look, you need to have somewhere to actually forge your weapon or armor. If you don't have it, you're going to need it. So you either have to go and hire a forge, or you need to have your own forge, or you need to visit a blacksmith and use the blacksmith's forge. You'll need tools, so you need to purchase tools. You might borrow them, you might lease them, you might rent them. That's really up to you. What you allow at your table is up to you. I often require these as part of crafting and making magic items. It means that it's a big deal when they do actually make something. Okay, the last thing that tends to crop up from time to time, do they need to have their character make a skill check or some kind to actually create that magic item? Well, considering all the different things that I've rattled off that you might bring into your game to actually be involved in actually making and crafting a magic item, it seems cruel to allow a dice roll which is completely random and has really no bearing on their effort in the actual creation. I don't use dice rolls. It just seems like a horrible gambling mix, and after I've had them jump through 6 different hoops to actually get the crafting of a magic item done, I'm not going to say, okay, take your skill modifier for whatever it is, arcana or blacksmithing or whatever it is, make a dice roll, this is the target DC, and let's figure out whether you are good enough at doing that by rolling a dice that can roll potentially 1 to 20. It's just going to be potluck. It sounds horrible. I don't do it. Okay, I have nothing more to say on crafting magic items today. I will probably do one on calculating the cost, materials and stuff like that. I will probably do one on doing magical armor, magical weapons, and maybe something else later on, depending on what people want me to do. I'm not particularly fond of crafting magic items, although I have done it at my table. I probably won't do it as much as I have in the past because it has created a whole lot of problems for me. Anyway, in the comments below, tell me what has happened when you have had your players craft magic items. Do you allow it in your game? Do you not? Make a comment, let us know, and until next time, keep rolling those 20s.